with wood and also designs his own interiors. And he really created the space to be his own sanctuary, to come here in the weekends and just have it as a second house. But at the same time, this also acts as a showroom for everything that he is capable, and that's why it's so incredible. Hi guys, welcome to InteriorInsights. I'm Jane, and we are standing in the south of Germany, really close to the borders of both Switzerland and France. And today we are going to look at a former hay shed that has been transformed into this incredible house that is full of designer furniture, and it's absolutely insane. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jane and I'm an interior designer. And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe. Now, let's go inside and have a look at this place. This place is an absolute example of how you can transform historic old places and turn them into a modern one, all while sustaining and keeping the original features alive. And that's what I am absolutely obsessed with. Just outside the house, you can already see how incredible it is, because on both sides of the house, we actually have the old historic doors that are still original. And they are the original doors of when this place was still used as a hay shack. So that's very cool. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram, where we post a lot of behind-the-scenes content and more interior design stories you won't find anywhere else. But of course today we have our own glass frame doors that just create a very light and airy and almost loft-like atmosphere. So let's go inside and check out the space. Now, as soon as we enter, we come into a kind of foyer. And you can see that this space is actually visually separated from the living room that we will enter. To both sides, we have two more rooms that have different functions, and I will show you later. And over here is where we enter the proper living area. Now, the owner has a lovely, gigantic dog who also sometimes comes here. His name's Sheriff. And so he decided to really just separate these two areas so that whenever the dog has dirty paws, you can keep him at the back, so that the entry room is clad in tiles. As soon as you enter the space, you just feel the atmosphere shift, because in the outside we have nothing but raw nature and green, lush trees. And here in the inside, we have a very highly modernized house, and so you almost forget that you are in the midst of nature. And to the owner and designer, it was very important to keep this connection with the outside alive and present throughout the design, and to remind you that you are still, in fact, in a former hay shack. And for this reason, he decided to just create these gigantic panoramic windows that just let the outside flood in, and you just have this visual connection. And so as soon as you enter the house, you just look all the way through into the view, and you were just magically drawn in. So we have this very angular room that then just expands into both sides to create an even grander impression. And one of my favorite design pieces inside this apartment is this absolutely gorgeous olive metal staircase. And you can see that it is actually floating. And this was quite difficult to achieve, because you basically have to double the size of the original wall just to provide the structure for bearing the load that the staircase has to keep. Also, if you're interested, I've created a free guide with 5 things that every home should have. It's completely free, and you can go check out the link in the description, or just get it by scanning this QR code. And at the bottom of the stairs, we even have some oak wooden steps to be able to sit in it and to create this kind of natural seating area. Right in the center of the apartment, we have the dining room area. And the gorgeous dining room table is surrounded by different designer icons that the designer has collected throughout the years. We have chairs by Vitra, a new one by Crystalia, and also by Hay. And they're all kept in these muddy green and brown tones, and they just create this variety and depth in design without being overwhelming and introducing too many different colors. Paired right next to the dining table, we have the gorgeous kitchen. And like I already mentioned, this house was intended to really be a showroom of all of the different design possibilities. And so the kitchen is in an entirely different style. We have this more French, rustic, farmside kitchen. And I believe that this is actually my favorite kitchen design. So we have this high kitchen island made from really old wood. I hope you love the home that you're watching right now. In reality, interior designers actually often work with repeatable color palettes and structures, combinations that they already know work. To make it a little bit easier for you, this is exactly why we built our curated color palette collection. It's a library of finished color palettes, the kind that interior designers usually keep in their archives. And each color palette is also completely deconstructed for you. So what is the dominant tone? In which rooms do this color palette works, and what is the psychological effect, as well as much more information. If you're someone who wants your home and color palette to feel intentional, not accidental, then you definitely go check it out. The link's in the description, or you can get it by scanning the QR code by taking out your phone, opening the camera app, and holding it at the QR code. And it kind of creates the symmetry and balance of the two tables. And I always love a high kitchen island because it just creates so many more opportunities for using it. You can stand, you can cut something, but you can also sit on your higher bar chair, and it just creates this very cool and effortless design. And over here we have the actual kitchen with an integrated stove. And again, you are just transported right to the countryside of France with all of these wooden panels. And you just have a very high quality design. And the stone that has been used also isn't some expensive marble, but instead it's much better. It's actually a stone that comes from the region of the south of Germany. So it's very regional, and it just adds this authentic touch to the design. And I just love the attention to detail. For example, this sink is also entirely created from the same stone. In German it's called Jura. I'm not sure what it's called. If you know the name of the stone, comment it down below. And you can see just the attention and love to detail. Another genius aspect of this kitchen is the fact that we have this almost like floating wall. And so to the side, we actually have an open pantry hiding where you can store all of your things. And this is just a great solution to just keep your kitchen tidy and neat at all times, because you don't have to store all of your dry ingredients. And on the other side, we have another small extra kitchen with an additional sink, so whenever you're entertaining in this house, you can just quickly put away all of the messy plates and everything, and it's impeccably clean again. Another very modern approach in design is creating these kinds of box situations inside and within a house. And this is exactly what the designer did here, is that he created this gray olive greenish box that hides a multitude of functions. We have all of the different amenities that you would need in a kitchen, such as multiple fridges, an oven, and much more. And he even created this natural niche inside this box just to showcase his love for coffee. So here we have an incredible, gigantic coffee machine from stainless steel that just acts as this little wow moment that just makes the space behind me pop. And I absolutely love it because I'm a big coffee drinker myself. And on this side we have a lot of hidden storage functions hidden behind this gorgeous wall. And over here we have the powder room, and this is just again another possibility to just create this very seamless design. Also inside here the bathroom is hiding, that I will show you in a second. It's absolutely gorgeous, and yet in a different style. Up here, of course, we have a second floor, but it's still currently being renovated. So if you're interested to see what it looks like later, when it's ready, comment below and we will come again once the space is completely finished. Now, on the left side of the open living space, we have the proper living room situation. And here the designer has decided to create a natural niche for the sofa. And so the sofa being tucked into the corner just creates an even more comfortable, secluded space that visually separates it from the rest of the open living room. After, I will show you what is hiding actually in both of these corners, because no space is being left unused here. We have a gorgeous Persian carpet that's very vintage, and here the color palette is again very muted, like in the rest of the house, but we have this strong focal point and the strong accent color. And that is that we have the swan chair created and designed by Arne Jacobsen. He's one of my favorite designers because he just creates these absolutely iconic pieces that look like they are just created with one stroke, and I really love his design. And of course, I also love the color orange, so this is just a real great pinch of some excitement in this otherly, very nuanced and calm apartment. And of course, to honor the incredible view, here again we have the egg chair, again by Arne Jacobsen, a favorite of mine, where you can just sit down, put up your legs, and just enjoy this gorgeous view. I can see the German Alps, I can see the green, I can see my garden. It's absolutely incredible. And also I love that here the original wooden beams of the hay shack have been preserved and that we still have them and they've been integrated into the design. And I love that we are able to just touch and see the original structure of the building and that it wasn't demolished. Because this just really underlines the story of the architecture and just shows us exactly where we are, and it just feels much more authentic this way. Now, let me show you the first bedroom. So the first bedroom is over here. And what is unique about it is that we have this very rough and raw plaster on the wall. And the door was actually painted in the same way. So we have this seamless modern transition, and you can only see the shape of the door. And I love this minimal approach to design. And when we go in, let me show you. The designer of this house has been deeply inspired by the color palette of Le Corbusier. And this is why he painted almost all of the rooms in different colors from his color palette. As soon as you enter this room, you are just transported in a super calm and relaxed atmosphere, and it feels very grounding. And also the entire house has a very modern and high quality sound system, so all of these sounds are really absorbed by the walls. So we even have wooden acoustic panels on every single ceiling, so you just have this very immersive and calm acoustics inside this house, and I love it. We have the dominant dark blue indigo walls that have been covered with all of these gorgeous moldings that just create a repetition and again cite the French kitchen. And then we just have a lot of different shades of gray and white fabrics that just make the space feel incredibly comfy and homey. We have these natural open corridors, and you can come inside here from both sides, so you have a completely symmetrical floor layout. And over here we have our walk-in closet, and it's absolutely gorgeous because we don't have too much excess space, but the space is used in a way that makes it feel very expansive and vast. And now I can also show you where the space went that was used to create the natural niche in the living room. And here, behind the two mirrors, we actually have even more storage space hiding. And this is also just a genius solution to otherwise unused space. And to the other side, the bathroom is hiding, the master bathroom. To just create a more expansive and modern approach, we have glass doors that are separating the bathroom from the rest of the living room. And as soon as we go in, you can see that it's absolutely gorgeous. I love the calm atmosphere that it has, and it is completely different to the rest of this loft or of this house. Here, the geometries are also very different. So the focal point is this gorgeous round freestanding bathtub that is elevated because it is standing on tiles. And then behind this niche we have the shower area as well as the bathtub. And over here we have the round symmetry repeated again. And that is that we have up here, we have this very high, gorgeous arch, and inside we have a black tinted mirror, and it just creates this almost oriental, very luxurious design. And the rest of the bathroom walls are clad entirely in this soft, rough terracotta color, and it just creates this absolute magical touch. And over here we have the powder room hiding that is kept in the same geometric language and colors as the primary bathroom. And now let me show you what is inside the first room. So behind me we have the second bedroom that can be used as a guest bedroom or an office. And over here we actually have a second gigantic, generous bathroom. You can see that the color palette is again much more rustical. And over here we are again reminded that we are in the countryside of Germany. The original brick wall of the hay shed has been exposed. And the focal point on this bathroom is this absolutely gorgeous sink that has been made from one slab of very fine terrazzo. And it is gigantic and it is very beautiful. And in the inside we even have these red and white tiles that just create this checkered pattern. And symmetrical to both sides of the sink we have a toilet and a shower hiding. Hi guys, welcome to InteriorInsights. I'm Jane and we are standing in front of a former cotton spinning mill. This warehouse is located in Leipzig, which is a small city in the east of Germany, and it is very close to Berlin. And in the east of Germany we used to have a lot of industry, but after the fall of the Berlin Wall, all of this industry went away and the DDR, the former East Germany, collapsed. And what was left after that is that we just had all of these empty standing industrial buildings that didn't have any functionality or didn't serve a purpose anymore. And during that times, a lot of students or artists moved here and used these walls to turn them into lofts, to create their art, to just have these creative spaces for expressing themselves or painting. And today, these artists turn these spaces into incredible industrial lofts that we will have a look at today. If you want to check out the loft, you can actually book it. The link is in the description. Now, in industrial buildings, you always have these beautiful, iconic windows that characterize them, but if you have that much window space, usually you always have a big heating problem because the big windows just let in a lot of Germany's cold in the winter. But the artists got quite lucky here because to be able to spin cotton, you always need consistent temperatures of 23 degrees. And because of this, the brick walls of these windows are actually over a meter thick, so you have quite constant and comfortable temperatures inside. Let's go and uncover the history. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe. Let's go. What is so unique about this place is the entire building is built from red bricks that have been painted over. Now, this is the loft. We have a spacious 116 square meters and over 42 square meters of just windows. So the space is just radiantly illuminated and we have this incredibly warm and exciting atmosphere. Like I already said, the space was formerly a cotton spinning mill. So we have this very old and historic patina and the walls. One complete side of the wall is just covered with these gorgeous windows that give you a captivating view. The windows have these metal beams that structure them and just give the entire room its rhythm and its personality. As we come in, you can see that it's one big space and it's just a bold expression of color, and a very fun and playful approach has come when designing the space. Over here, we have another historic remains of when this place was still a cotton spinning mill. We have these historic rustic metal lockers where the people used to store their clothes while they were working. I love it whenever you manage to keep these old historic pieces alive and not take away from the history. We come right into the open living space. We have a table with a lot of chairs where you can gather with your friends. And all of the furniture is also from the same time when the cotton mill was still active. So we have a lot of vintage pieces that have been sourced. And you can see that the design is just one consequential design language. A lot of the pieces just stayed here forever or were just sourced around the building and around the surroundings. What's so unique about the space is that nothing is perfect, but everything just screams of raw authenticity. Behind me, you can already see stairs that are leading up to the second bedroom, but we will have a look at that later. We have the seating area and we have one vintage sofa accompanied by two vintage sofa chairs. They are all from the same family, so you can see that they are from one design. But to make it just a little bit more interesting, one sofa chair has been upholstered in a different red fabric so that we just have this monochrome color family of brown, mustard yellow, and a soft red. The furniture itself has a very low profile just to accentuate the gigantic height that we have in this room. Another favorite of mine is this lamp that's also very industrial, very functional, and that lets you move and adjust it however you need it. The color palette in this apartment is very colorful, like I already mentioned. You just have all of these vintage 50s to 70s colors that are kept in this little kind of muted tones. And all of the metal structures that make up this building and hold it up that you can see in the ceiling and on the walls have been painted in this soft green, as well as some of the walls, and they just provide this crisp freshness. And this crisp green has been paired with warm neutrals and reds, and they just create this very charming atmosphere. We are already inside the kitchen, and the kitchen is visually separated also by color. The kitchen's walls are colored in this very strong, bright red, and we just have a whole nother atmosphere as soon as we enter the kitchen. But because this is a loft and this is an open space without any doors, of course the energy flows from one area into the next area. The kitchen again has some incredible historic details. It is not an iconic designer kitchen with gigantic slabs of marble, because that would be all completely out of the place. But instead we have a very simple stove where you can cook. We have this historic remains of the former lady room. I told you before that this place also served as a ladies' bathroom at some point. And we just have all of these sinks, 7 in total. On the other side we have some more. And I love it that the designers didn't decide to just remove them and think, okay, who needs 7 sinks? But they just kept them there just to show the history. So whenever you're drinking a cup of coffee in the morning or you want to relax and write down some thoughts, you can sit here by the gigantic windows and just let yourself be inspired by your surroundings and just by the radiant light that is flooding in from all sides of the window. Another piece of history that has been kept on purpose in this loft is the fact that all of the different floor materials are still original. So here in the kitchen area, in the former ladies' bathroom, we have orange tiles that just take us back in history. And in the living room area, we have kind of like a fabric-y floor, and again, big gray tiles. And it's also the floors that visually zone the different areas and just create some visual interest. Because the space is just such a bold and fun experimentation with color. Three-dimensional geometric abstract painting that you look at. Also, this table isn't just a regular table, but it's a beautiful vintage table that has also been colored half in blue and half in white. And this again just adds this fun extra visual interest. Another little detail that I love is that somebody just took a marker and decided to make the fridge disappear into the background by blending it in with the rest of the white tiles. Before I show you the bathroom that is also still part of the historical ladies' bathroom, let me show you the two bedrooms upstairs. So this is the first double bedroom. And you can see it is kind of like a cave because we have the second floor that has been built into the top. And the ceiling of the space is kept in wood, so you just have this very cave-like, comfortable nook that you can just hide away whenever you want to go to sleep. The bed itself has a very low profile. And we have two different cupboards that are placed on top of each other. And whenever you've had enough of your guests, you just take the curtain, close it up, and you have your own little hideaway. And whenever you have so much space, as you have in this loft, there's always a possibility to create little comfortable seating compositions or just a little moment to excite your guests. We have a very colorful, bright red accent that just adds this bold and fun accent to the design, and a gigantic black and white graphic photograph. All of the photographs here are photographs of the friend of the designer that they've just traded or gifted to each other over the years. So all of the art that we can find here is original and just speaks of Leipzig's art scene. Now let's go upstairs. Now these are the steep stairs, and this second bedroom has just been built inside this loft over time just to create some extra sleeping space whenever you have more guests staying over. Everything is still kept in this very industrial design. We are so high up to the ceiling we can actually touch the metal beams. Over here we again have a very dreamy and minimal design to calm you down at night, but at the same time, because this is kind of like a maisonette setup, and you almost have this balcony situation. When you wake up and stand up, you can just look outside and just enjoy the vast view that you have over your apartment. The walls of this little upstairs bedroom have been again painted in this dark red that is both exciting, but that almost is kind of like this warm hug. And over here we have a little writing station that is also just incredibly creative, and I love it because a former facade has been actually turned inside a little writing station. So here we actually have a window where you can look out. And this little window is again an example of these unexpected moments that I'm always talking about, and it makes you feel like you're kind of living in your own little tiny house upstairs here. The vintage wooden furniture is accompanied by a bright red Japanese lantern that again creates and illuminates this radiant design. This is the bathroom, and this is also a part of the old ladies' bathroom that we used to have here. And up here it still says Damen, which means women or female in Germany. So this is the ladies' bathroom that I was talking about. Again, we have the orange tiles, but this time they are accompanied by bright blue walls. We have all of these vintage historic furniture pieces, and nothing is too luxurious because it's not supposed to be. And it's not about creating this grand and elegant design, but one that really speaks of the history of this place. And because this is an artist loft, up here we have fun prints where you wouldn't expect them, and you can just see the creativity. So much of the historic elements in this loft were kept, such as this bathroom stall. It's almost like a little museum that just takes you back in time into the days of the people who used to live and work here. Or another little detail that I appreciate that they kept is this mirror that says Sehen, Denken, Handeln on top, which means safety first. And I think that that's quite fun. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior design student. We are going to look at an incredible industrial loft that is located in a former pasta factory. If it wasn't for the couple, the building would still be deteriorating. The factory is located in Zeitz, which is a city close to Berlin, and it belongs also to East Germany, which formerly used to be a part of the GDR, the German Democratic Republic. This factory building was built by a Mr. Emmerling, who founded his pasta company and then built this building in 1909. And after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reunification, this factory was just abandoned and the whole business went bankrupt. And this building was just completely forgotten and was for some years a part of these lost places, as you call them. And then in 2016, a couple decided to buy this building and to reinsert some life into this building. Let's go have a look at the loft. As soon as you come in, you can look right all the way through the loft to the other side, where there's an arched historical window, and you just have this unique axis that spans across the entire loft. Over here we have a little entryway area where there's a lot of hidden storage rooms and the bathroom that is hiding that I will show you after. As we enter this loft, we are just transported back in time to 1909 when this apartment was built. All of the structure of the building that we can see today is still original from that period. That means that the brick walls are also still original and they are unplastered, so we can actually get to see the red bricks and we can really feel the energy in the room. To all sides of the loft, we have large windows that span from the beginning of the floor all the way up to the ceiling, and they end with small round arches. And this just brings a great repetition inside the loft and adds a sense of structure, a sense of rhythm, but at the same time we just have all of this light flooding in from every single side. Whenever we look outside the window, we are just exposed to the brick facades of this historical building, and we can really just take in the ancient fabric atmosphere of this place. Because this is a loft, we have an open floor plan and there are no doors, no walls whatsoever. And you know, I'm obsessed with whenever people don't cover up the history or the marks that the story that this place went through, but that they really celebrate the history and all of these irregular, unperfect details. You can even see that the flooring changes from here to there. For example, we have both completely white tiles as well as tiles that have been accentuated with little red squares, or in the kitchen area we have black tiles. And this again doesn't distract from the design, but this is actually what makes up the incredible design that we're standing in today. Over here we have the kitchen, and the kitchen reminds me of this rustical farmside kitchens because we have this freestanding kitchen island that is made from wood and it has been painted in this dark hunter green, as well as the back wall behind the kitchen, and it just reminds you of the simpler times and just takes you back into the story. We have farmer baskets, we have a lot of little vases or herbs. All of these little pieces are not just decor, but they really underline the story. So behind this wall, the bathroom is hiding, and these walls that are painted are actually the only walls that have been added during the renovation process, so they are not from 1909. And you can see that the designers also try to show this by plastering these walls and giving them a different finish. And the kitchen actually only consists of one simple black kitchen block and this kitchen island over here, but it's really the color and materiality and also just using these historic accessories that create the story. We still have the industrial style with very industrial vintage lamps that have also been sourced locally. And my favorite part about the kitchen is that we have the small red artwork that just makes the entire kitchen pop. Sometimes you don't need to make really big or bold color choices, but you can just have a monochrome green kitchen and just add a small red object or just a small complementary color. And this is what completes the design and makes it pop and takes it out of being boring. Open kitchen layouts, especially with kitchen islands, are just a great thing when you have guests over or when you entertain or when you cook for your family. And then when you're done with cooking, you can just take the food over to the dining room area. And these are just one of many perks of having an open living concept. Over here we have the dining room table. And again, we have this very rustical, farm-like storytelling because the table consists just of one gigantic slab of wood. And the sides of the table have actually kind of been darkened to add some more soft touches and to make the space more cozy. So we have soft gray chairs that are surrounding the table, and they again act as a soft element just to add this little feminine and cozy touch. And big dining tables are always a great place to add some styling or just to create a little composition. Over here we have two really cool rustical vases that again have a very strong patina and just some branches that have been collected from the outside. And if we go over here, we can see this is a really cool painting, and I wish they would have put like a lamp or something on top of it so you could see it. Because at the first glance it looks like a black square, but it's actually a portrait of a guy, and that's quite cool. It's a very cool painting, and over here by the windows you can again see the historical windows that are still original. Just everything that they went through, the building that has once been deteriorating, and everything has just been kept the way it was so that you can just really experience the history. And I believe that it's these simple little broken moments that just create this perfect and authentic design. Now, because the space used to be a pasta factory, we are lucky and we have these very high walls that allow a lot of play and fun while designing. So we have all of these oversized artworks that again add this artistic and creative touch to the loft. Many people are always scared of placing big artworks also inside smaller places, but these are always a great idea to get out of your comfort zone and create a truly outstanding design. Over here we have the living room area. There's been a lot of play with different fabrics and textures just to create this coziness, and another element that was used to just create this level of comfort is by having very low profile furniture. So we have a very low profile sofa that is kept in this greenish brown velvet texture, or we have all of these different sofa chairs that also have a very low profile, and they just invite you to sit down. And because we have the beautiful historic floor tiles that I already talked about, we don't have a carpet, but instead we have a see-through sofa table from plexiglass so that you can really take in the details of the original tiles. Another thing I noticed in this apartment is the proper and purposeful use of light. So we don't just have one source of light, but we really have a lot of different lighting sources, both from above as well as hanging on the wall or just standing on the floor. And this again just creates this very dynamic and ambient light, and it looks especially beautiful at night. And because the designer didn't want to intrude into the original substance of the building and really just preserve it and mindfully design around the substance of the building, instead of putting all of the electricity inside the walls, they decided to use all of the black electricity cables and all of the piping lines that you need today to accentuate the design. So all of the walls and ceilings have these little black electricity wires around them. And I feel like they again frame the architecture and yet another level and just add this. So the bedroom is just tucked inside a corner, so it acts as its own little space, even though it's part of the big area. The headboard of the bed is again framed by these black electrical cables that go all around it, and they again create a sense of zoning and a separation from the rest of the loft. And because the space is very rustical and has a lot of harsh materials like stone, brick, glass and metal, you don't have a very soft and cozy atmosphere. And to counteract all of these harsh and rough materials, there was a lot of fabric added to add again a more feminine, softer touch to the apartment and just to create more of the sense of home and coziness. And so underneath the bed we have a big vintage carpet that again has a very uneven texture and that just again adds this new type of material, but also this cozy element and just a new materiality to the design. Now let me show you the industrial historic bathroom. This is the bathroom area, and like I already mentioned, these walls are the only ones that have been created and that are not the historical walls. But the intention was to just create a private space for a bathroom and at the same time to keep this industrial character of the space. And when I look at the space, I am again reminded of these old historic farms a few hundred years ago. For the sink, we have a very cool wash basin that also takes me back to a farm, because I feel like this could also be a wash basin where like pigs or cows drink and get their water. And these historic industrial details are again paired with very modern, sleek, minimal ones. We have a very big round mirror, and it just makes the whole space, on the one hand, incorporate itself into the story, but at the same time we have a very modern and fully functioning bathroom that just applies to today's standards. The floor tiles are the same as in the rest of the loft. They are historic and they have all of these marks, and when you're taking your shower you have new black tiles around you, but when you look at the floor you can still see the remains of the history. And a little detail that I noticed is over here it says Hauptschalter, which means like that it's the main switch. And I believe that this is also another detail that has just been kept to not forget the history of this place. So yes, comment below which part was your favorite of this loft, and if you would like me to showcase more historic transformations to modern, incredible, eclectic lofts. Hi guys, welcome to Interior Insights. I'm Jane, an interior design student, and we are standing in Leipzig in a historic town in the east of Germany that used to belong to the GDR, the German Democratic Republic. And we are standing in front of a loft that formerly used to be first a warehouse and then a garage. The building was built in the 1950s and it consists of brick walls, and it has just been placed inside a garden. The loft is located in a big forest, and you have the nature surrounding you and the sound of birds. And it's a very lovely place. If you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe right now. As we come in, we can see that this former warehouse has been transformed into one spacious open living floor concept. And you know I'm obsessed with lofts, especially if they are placed within like a historic warehouse, especially if the details have been preserved. And the loft itself has 120 square meters, and the living room itself already has 100 square meters. And when the designer decided on how to basically create this loft, he really wanted to offer a space for people to come and relax and to really feel a vast spaciousness throughout the design. Because of the renting prices going up, people are living in smaller and smaller apartments, and he really just wanted to give people the opportunity to experience the space of the loft. As soon as we come in, every single detail in this loft has its own history and has just its own little story to tell. Originally, this space used to be a garage, and then it has just been used throughout the years as a warehouse, and you can just still feel this very rustic and industrial history of the place. The entire building has been built with bricks and mortar, and both of the brick walls on both sides have been laid free. And you can just still see the historic structure of the original warehouse. The ceiling itself is also made out of bricks, and you just have these incredible structure of the steel beams that visually divide the space. And you just have this repetition at the top of the loft, which just creates this very cohesive and structured design. We have just one very free space where you can roam around. Over here we have a little sofa area, and you can see that even though the geometry of the room is just one gigantic square, the sofa has been placed kind of diagonal to create this more informal and free-flowing design. And we just have this break-up of all of the straight angles that we have here. The designer decided to keep it very natural, to use sustainable materials, and to just keep this rough history of the loft alive. As soon as you come in, this lamp is the only golden accent in the room, and because of this it serves really as a focal point, and it just draws you in, especially if the light is reflecting off of the lampshade. Just is in strong contrast with all of the industrial and more rustic nature of this loft. All of the industrial and more rustic nature of this loft, there is an undeniable sense of groundedness, but it's not really heavy, but it just stands in perfect contrast. You can see that it's always worth thinking about breaking out of your design story and turning an accent into a magnificent, unexpected moment. One of my favorite things about this loft is the fact that most of the furniture that we can see here is actually from Italy, and the furniture here used to stand at Marlboro shops and just serve as shelves. For example, this metal shelf over here actually used to once belong to a Marlboro shop. The designer of the loft used to work in the fabric industry, and because of this he was just able to source all of these incredible and exciting pieces of furniture. And this is what's just absolutely incredible about this loft, because this shelf as well is also from Marlboro. And even the shelves themselves are also marked with the historic Marlboro logo with these triangles. And it's just these simple details that you'll only notice if you know the story of the loft, and I feel like this is why it's just a very unique space. Over here we have the dining room area. The dining room area is zoned and marked by a carpet that just creates this separation of the space. And we just have this very generous big wooden table with a lot of historic and rustical vintage chairs. And the designer properly managed to create this vast spaciousness of the design. Another aspect that makes this loft seem so spacious and grand is because we have all of these windows. The entrance area is completely framed in glass in the historical or typical black and white square glasses that just create this very industrial New York-like characteristic of the loft. And on one side of the loft we have an entire row of windows that frame and give the wall its rhythm and just add a lot of light accents, and the entire space is just flooded with light and just creates this very beautiful, luxurious atmosphere. Behind me is the kitchen, and these also used to be where you make a sale in the Marlboro stores in Italy, And this has also just been turned into a kitchen, and it just shows the creative genius of the designer who designed the space. And you can see that because we have this one freestanding kitchen island that goes all the way from one side to the other side, it kind of visually separates the different functions of the room. And on the one hand, we still have this open plan space layout, but the spaces are visually and especially mentally, which is very important, separated from each other. The second part of the furniture that doesn't belong to the Marlborough pieces from Italy all come from the 50s, from a gigantic furniture collection. And also all of these historic plates and cutlery are all from this collection. The story of this industrial warehouse has just been told in every detail. For example, here again we have this little gem of a lamp that you can pull out, and it's just this very cool industrial rustic lamp that I love. And before, I already mentioned the furniture collection from the 50s, and inside the historic Marlborough shelves where you used to have jeans, now you have all of these historic books and just beautiful antiques that you can lose yourself in. Now, let me show you the bedroom. The open living room flows freely into the bedroom, and we don't have any doors or means of separation in this apartment except for the bathroom, because the goal was to really underline the spaciousness of this place. Here we have a very calming atmosphere that is accentuated by placing a rug underneath the bed, and this again just creates this very cozy design. The textures, the patina, the unpolished edge, all of these details speak to a kind of lived-in apartment and a lived-in beauty that doesn't try too hard. And at the same time, we have this little pinch of glamour here and there. For example, we have a very luxurious, classy gold chandelier that is hanging from the ceiling, and you can again see that this detail breaks out from the story of this place being a warehouse. Over here we have a gigantic mirror that again accentuates the space. So as you basically walk inside, you can see yourself, and it's almost kind of like a runway. And what's really cool, for the shelves we actually have two USM Haller shelving systems that again are very flexible and just very classical designer icons, which is quite cool. The bedroom is flooded with light because of the grand windows that frame this wall. And we have a very rich and luxurious stone as a window shield where you can also sit down and drink a cup of tea or read a book, and you just have this very airy, lightweight and yet rustical design. Over here's the bathroom, and we just have this very clean, minimal, modern space that provides comfort and that has everything you need. For the ceiling lamp, we have a very cool industrial rustic lamp that has been sourced from Paris. And again, it draws the connection to the history of the space. We have two very elegant golden light sconces on both sides of the mirror that illuminate your face when you look at it. Let me know what you thought of this loft in the comments. This loft has definitely been one of my favorite places I've ever filmed. I think my favorite piece of the loft were definitely the historic brick walls. And yes, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, because that's the best and simplest way you can support this channel, and that would mean a lot to me. Hi guys, welcome to InteriorInsights. I'm Jade, and we are standing in a former dart shop that has been turned into a 70 square meter loft. Come in! This loft is located in the base floor of the house, and it just has one scrumptious blend of unique materials. This loft perfectly blends designer icon furniture pieces with industrial and rough finishers. If you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe right now. As we come inside, you can see that you just have one gigantic space that blends all of the different functions into each other. When the owners recently bought this place, this used to be a former dart shop that everybody in the neighborhood in Hamburg-Eppendorf knew, that belonged to an old lady who took care of this dart shop for over 30 years. And the owners managed to transform this place into a very unique loft. The owners of this apartment decided to renovate as much as they can by themselves. And because they didn't really know what they were doing at the beginning when they started with the renovation, they decided on an industrial look and design to just create an authentic experience and to stay true to the history and materiality of the place. For example, behind me we have this white wall that has been covered in plaster, but in between the plaster there is still some of the brick wall that is exposed and laid free, and it is accentuated with ambient indirect lighting, and it just makes the history and the historic details pop. As soon as we come in, there is kind of an entryway composition, and that consists of a gigantic mirror that goes quite a bit to the top, and it is paired with vintage and unique furniture pieces. So over here we have this bench that is made from old leather, and it just has a very old patina, and you can put all of your things here. To my right, we have a lush green sofa chair, and you need to keep in mind that every single item of furniture in this apartment is vintage and has been bought at some vintage shop. Another key feature of this loft is the fact that the raw structure that holds up this building has been laid free and exposed. For example, when the owners bought this place, they decided to remove the drop ceiling to just add a bunch of extra height. But we still can see the metal beams that used to hold the drop ceiling. And they were again visually elevated with lighting, and I love it. Over here is the dining area, and it consists of one long minimal table that spans all the way from one side of the room to the other side of the room. Because this place used to be a storefront, we have these gigantic windows that completely frame one wall. And you just have a bunch of natural light coming in that illuminates the space. The white table is framed by different designer furniture chairs, and if you know me, you know my favorite type of furniture is a chair. So I'm absolutely excited that there's so many different chairs here. On the one hand, we have a bunch of fiberglass Eames chairs that perfectly go with the industrial and vintage atmosphere of the apartment. And you see that you can really just create your own entire world of design, and you don't just need to follow the rules. For the second type of chairs, we have the cantilever chairs that again add a sense of class and elegance to the design. Even though the color palette in this apartment is quite minimalistic, we have grays topped with browns and some muted greens that all go very well with all of the natural color of the wood that we have here. You have some pops of color here and there that really add this playful and fun character, such as instead of having boring regular glasses, we have these very colorful glasses. And that's just a simple trick to add some fun and excitement to your design. Whenever you have an open floor layout, it's important to visually zone the different areas. And the dining room was zoned with these two lamps that are just hanging freely above the table and zoning the area and creating an axis. So over here is the sofa area and the lounge area, and you can see that it kind of feels like a warm and comfortable cave because we have this lower ceiling height, and it just makes you feel very warm and comfortable. And whenever you want to create a relaxed or comfortable atmosphere, it's important to work with different types of fabric and also to add a lot of different sources of lighting, especially indirect lighting, such as this lamp at the back, because the light then can play and visually bounce around in the room, and that just feels very satisfying. Here again, we have some beautiful lounge chairs with a very bold design, and they almost seem kind of like a sculpture in the room because they are so pronounced and because they're just freely standing inside the room. Before I show you the bedroom that has been elevated above me, let me show you the kitchen and the bathroom. One more thing. Whenever you don't have that much light in a space, or you want to just create a sense of expansion in any space, the go-to is always mirrors. You can just see how visually the space, even though it's already expansive, it just seems so much larger because we have such a gigantic mirror that it's just placed against this wall, and you can visually just feel that the space seems like it's double the size. Now, come with me. The living area freely flows into the kitchen, and it is separated. We can see that the kitchen itself is just kept in very muted beige and white tones, and what's really cool is the fact that the terrazzo that I'm standing on is actually still original from the Dart store. So this is just a historic piece that has been kept original. And to give the kitchen some warmth, we just have this wooden cabinet that has been added. And I love the juxtaposition of the square geometry of the cabinet paired with all of the rounded angles, because it just seems very satisfying and very soft. Now let me show you the first bedroom. So this is the first bedroom, and even though the space itself isn't so big, it feels very expansive because of the gigantic ceiling height that we have. The colors are very muted and create a very relaxed atmosphere. What I notice is the fact that the color of the wall actually is kind of like a gray, but because the gray color of the wall is paired with pink curtains, visually the room feels very warm and the wall almost seems like it's kind of pink, and I love that. Whenever you have high ceilings, it's important to really use this vertical space, and this is why we just have two beautiful lighting sculptures hung above the bed that just create this, that kind of mimic the shape of a cloud, and it just feels very dreamy. And you can see that with simple elements such as lighting or pairing a gray with a warmer color, you can just create this very holistically warm and loving design. Another little composition that I love is the fact that here we have this, in German you would call it a secretary table, I'm not sure how to call it in English. That's just a very classical shape, classical color of this like warm, almost orange wood paired with a sleek steel chair. And I just love the contrast and composition, and I feel like it perfectly goes together. Now let me show you the beautiful bathroom. So this is the bathroom. Again, you just have this very calming atmosphere, and there wasn't much done to the bathroom, but it still feels very luxurious and very calming. The walls are actually covered just with rough plaster that create this very textured and organic atmosphere, and all of the beige tones that we have in the bathroom are complemented with beautiful bright green plants. This is another great simple trick if you want to spice up your bathroom, is to just add some green plants, because they instantly add the sense of life and vibrancy. Another thing that I love is the fact that the theme of the terrazzo floor that we have still as an original detail has been pulled as a source of inspiration and integrated. So actually we have yet another piece of terrazzo here, which is the sink, and that is great. Or another little detail that I love is the fact that inside the shower we have these beautiful tiles, and they again create this certain scale and repetition and just create this little designer moment, even though it's just a regular shower. Now let me show you the bedroom. This is the entryway to the bedroom. And it's just one dream of a bedroom, because the whole entire second floor has been custom built, as well as the stairs that I'm standing on. And this is why you just have this perfect, smooth experience. So as we come up here, we have the primary bedroom, and it's just one dream of a bedroom because you get to lay here and wake up with a view. And whenever you have elevated mezzanine bedrooms like these, where you actually get to look down to the first floor, you're very lucky, because you just have this very expansive and grand feeling. And you can see that again here, not a lot of colors have been added. We have the natural brown of the wood, or we have very light and soft colors, but just by adding colorful striped bed sheets, you just have this pop of color, and you just created this interesting, eye-catching design. And I love this 70s acrylic bedside table that again just creates and adds this round shape, or I absolutely love the fairy lights. It's just simple details like this that create the outstanding and dreamy design. And over here again, we have a cupboard and a little composition that has been created, and you can see that a great trick is also just to put a bunch of different frames or mirrors on top of each other, and just to not be scared of breaking the rules and trying out something new. And I feel like this is a very thoughtful and nice composition. So yes, today we looked at an industrial loft that has a lot of different designer icons. Let me know what you thought of the loft in the comments and which piece was your favorite piece of furniture, because I have yet to decide. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, also make sure to subscribe and to check out the link for this loft in the description.